should be live. Hey guys, welcome back to Xenia Bridge. Apologies for last week. There were some personal things that came up, and unfortunately, we tried to get the show to happen, but it
just fucking didn't.
So now, that's that. Because we already had everything set up for Cirrus to come on this week, we are going to be doing the topic from last week, but plus an extra lefty. So welcome back to the channel, Cirrus. I'm pretty sure most people here know who you are.
Aliakai, I'm right-handed. Why are you lying to them?
It's 30 seconds and I'm fucking done.
I don't understand. Okay. I guess I'll just...
Oh my god, 30 seconds. It took 30 seconds to pull one of those out.
Okay, look. I have a new toy. This was very cheap at Target, and I hesitate to say it's good.
I forgot what Target looks like.
It looks like privilege and garbage.
I forgot what Walmart looks like.
That
I
one's
don't
just
go
garbage.
outside. Everything gets delivered here. I don't go outside anymore.
So, before we completely go off the rails, as usual when we have friends on the channel, there are two kind of big things that we need to cover at the beginning of the stream. The first of which is that we are helping Cirrus out with his fundraiser tonight. Any super chats that you guys do will go to Cirrus, or at least the portion that Google lets us keep, because Cirrus will flip the fuck out on me if I give him the whole thing.
Yes, just like I flipped out on Jen.
Once YouTube sends me that pin, it's all coming to you. I still haven't got my pin yet.
If you haven't gotten it yet, you might need to re-request. But we'll get into the behind the scenes stuff later. But the second is that due to some changes that Jen's going to be announcing fairly soon on her channel, we're going to be transitioning the Xenia Bridge away from mostly focusing on allyship and guest shows toward, we've kind of built the coalition, like what do we do with it, sort of more politically action-focused show. And this is one of the first episodes that kind of reflects that, but we've been building up to this for quite some time. So Jen, do you want to kind of talk about the new direction a little bit and the two names that we kind of have been debating on? Because we want to give everybody the chance to actually
I forgot the names. I'm not going to lie.
Well,
I legit forgot them.
Well, do you at least want to talk about the show then?
Yeah, so I'm not covering atheist shit anymore. I'm not. It ain't for me. I'm going to be releasing a video, not this Thursday, but next Thursday on that. And, yeah. So, if I'm not doing that kind of shit, why are we working on fucking that topic if I ain't doing that kind of shit? No.
So Jen's effectively doing what I did with my channel, except instead of going, I'm going to do both, she's like, fuck that one.
Instead I'm like, no.
Well, and you said that you were going to be talking about why that is and everything.
Yeah, about 2 weeks.
Sometime fairly soon.
About 2 weeks. The video I'm putting out this week is more time pertinent, so that's going to come out first, and we'll talk about that.
So, the kind of the way that I saw it when Jen and I talked about this, because originally we were talking about whether the show would continue at all, was there's only so many conversations you can have about allyship. It's more that I think we've kind of reached. We've discussed every single reason why pagans and atheists might want to work together, why theists in general that support progressive causes might want to work with atheists, even though some atheists are kind of screwed. You know, why we might want to work more on bridge building. So because we built so many of those bridges, it's kind of like,
y'all, this shit is looking like New York City. We got 8 fucking bridges. 4 of them cost $25 to fucking cross. 1 will charge you to get out, not in. We done.
If I could potentially throw something at you, Aliakai, I still get comments on my channel asking why I ally with pagans. I don't know if there's necessarily going to be a point where those conversations don't need to be had, at least at some point, in some capacity.
I get that. I've been saying for about a month now that I'm moving out of the atheist sphere, and I get people that are like, so can you break down this theological argument for me? And I'm like, bitch, do you not fucking listen to the shit that I say? And if you don't listen to the shit that I say, then what the fuck makes me think you're gonna listen to this fucking argument that you want me to fucking present onto you because you're too fucking lazy to wipe your swamp ass and go fucking Google it yourself? Wow, I am in a mood
Actually,
tonight. Whoa, okay.
So my question is, why would they just not Google it while they're dealing with their swamp ass? Because I've looked at the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy plenty of times on the shitter.
Because they... So this is something I'm noticing about the community, is that nobody wants to say anything original. They just want to mirror shit that other people said.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons. This is one. So I want to. I'm going to throw something at. I know you're hopping out of this area, Jen, but I'm going to throw something at you, and I want you to give me what you almost always hear. So, theist comes to you, and this is almost always Abrahamic because the moral argument doesn't exist generally outside of that. Theist comes to you, hits you with the moral argument for the existence of God.
I already know where this is going.
and you've got the handful of go-tos, right? Well, you've got to demonstrate that objective morality exists first, or you've got the cart before the horse, demonstrate God exists first before you do this. And those are like the go-tos in the atheist community. But if you actually crack open a book, you will find at least 15 other non-subjective, non-objective philosophical arguments for morality, and nobody fucking talks about them.
Because they all looked at one fucking argument 400 years ago and have just been regurgitating it ever fucking since.
That's why when I did I had a comment on one of my videos, and they were just like, I think when they were just like, when it comes to philosophy, Circe is the only one I see talking about morality outside of objective and subjective. I'm like, yeah, that's because I think I'm one of the only fucking anti-realists in this space.
Probably. I didn't even think about that. I think you're like the only one I know.
Because it's like you've got your Richard Carriers who are objective, like your Richard Carrier's rationality rules, and then you've got like your Shannon Q's that are subjectives, and then I'm just sitting there like,
no,
you could both be right and you could both be wrong, and that's where I am.
Maybe you're maybe.
It's funny that the first 7 minutes of the stream has been like hijacked talking about morality.
The exact fucking thing that we said we were getting away from.
So, the reason that this got brought up is because we are going to be putting a poll in the Discord. For all of you that are in it, it will be in the announcement section. So even if you're in Xanos, you will be able to vote on it through emote reactions. But we're going to be putting up a poll for the new name of the show. And then we're going to be putting forward a little bit of money for new branding and probably a new intro. The two options that Jen and I came up with were the Xania Root and the Xania Coalition. So, if you guys are in the Discord, that poll will be up after the show. I can probably actually put it up like now if you guys want me to, but you'll have to hear some tapping. We're going to be taking votes from you guys because we debated like for a little while over it, and then we're like, you know what, fuck it, we'll let them make the decision.
I'm done making decisions for a long time. I mean, minus like keeping my kid alive and paying my bills. I'm done making decisions for a while after this week.
I would like to be done making decisions, but as we find out there are more things broken here, I stopped.
We are too poor to not ever make a decision again, sir. We are too poor for that.
I'm just like, oh, yay, now with all the water damage, I have to call HVAC out here so I can get air conditioning again. Yay.
Wait, is it still like really hot down by you? Because it's been warm as fuck here. It's been like the 80s.
It's sitting at 72-ish degrees in the house, but bear in mind that is over in the that's in the hallway. That's where the thermostat is. If you consider the fact that both mine and Raz's rooms have powerful PCs in them, these places suck to be.
Thank you so much, Ikeda, for the $20 super chat. I vote for Xenia Coalition. Thank you so much for making your voice heard.
Thank you.
I know you are in the Discord. I will be putting up the poll fairly shortly with the emotes that you guys can respond with. Let me know in there as well. But thank you again for the super chat. Again, like what Google lets us keep of all of the super chats as soon as I get
YouTube, not Google.
Or what? Well, it's Google. Google's owned by
whatever the overlord that runs this lets us keep.
Yeah,
Google.
whatever.
We'll go to
Google. It's Google.
Google owns YouTube.
Do they?
So, yeah,
Google writes your paycheck. When you file your taxes, you get a 1099 miscellaneous document from Google.
Yeah, Google writes your paycheck.
You are a freelancer under Google.
Yep, Google AdSense. That's why you have to get your money through Google AdSense.
Oh my god, it is Google AdSense. Y'all. My brain has stopped working.
I feel like
so the portion that Google ends up letting us keep, which I know Google's a subsidiary of Alphabet, but Google's the one that writes our checks. So that is going to be going to Cirrus as soon as we get paid with it. And Jen and I have both agreed to give our portions to the fundraiser. However, I did post the link in the description and have instructed mods to post the link throughout the stream to the direct PayPal pool so that Cirrus can get the money sooner. If you guys want to help and want him to be able to keep more of it, that PayPal pool, if you have access to PayPal, is going to be much more direct and much faster for Cirrus to be able to get access to those funds to help repair his house.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, there's some extensive water damage going on with foundations, and Cirrus is trying to raise enough money to get that fixed before his house collapses in on itself.
Yeah, I have no idea how long that's going to be. My thought is that it's not so much that the house is going to collapse in on itself first. My thought is that when we do the mold test, which needs to be done somewhat soonish.
Is that? I don't know if that's you or me.
That is Raz screaming at a ghost in Phasmophobia.
I don't know if that's Raz or my kid.
No, it's Raz screaming at
Phasmophobia.
But my concern is that when we get someone to come out and do the mold test for the house, which in and of itself is about $300, they're going to go, hey, by the way, because the water damage is so extensive in the kitchen, your house might get condemned, and if any of you have ever dealt with house insurance, you know that gradual damage is never covered.
Never.
However, there is one small update in this. $1,000 of the funds towards the house repairs actually just went to getting our house under insurance again. We did find an insurance agency that was willing to take the house as it is right now, and they did allow for us to put down mold insurance, which isn't going to help us right now because all of this
it's for future, right?
Yeah, this is for in case this screws up again. We might not be able to fix gradual water damage a second time, obviously, but the mold part we might be able to fix if that ends up happening. So that is an update that happened literally yesterday, and I hadn't gotten a chance to actually talk about it yet. So I want to thank everybody who has donated. Yeah, I want to thank everybody who has donated so far because the first 1,000 of that has gone into a thing that will help with the house.
Small steps.
Which is good.
Small steps. You're getting there. Small steps.
So, now that we've kind of announced that, like I said, my mods are going to be posting the link directly to the PayPal pool. I highly urge anybody who wants to donate to help out Cirrus to do that. I know that super chats are a lot more fun, but he's gonna get it faster and it'll help him a heck of a lot more if you go direct. But if you do decide to super chat, we will read them throughout, and all of the amount that Google lets us keep will be going directly to Cirrus. So if you want to go that route and you want to participate in the stream that way, you're welcome to. I just urge you to go to the PayPal if you really if your motivation is helping Cirrus, because it's going to help him a lot faster and he'll get access to it a lot faster. So with that out of the way, we just kind of went through some shit as a country, didn't we?
My fucking brain is dying, yo.
We were busy biding our time. But I think we managed to trump the opposition.
Oh my god. I'm not gonna sit on our dad jokes tonight. It's just not gonna happen.
No, you don't have to sit on them. You just have to sit kind of adjacent to them. The blinks. The blinks. Jen, do you think this is going to get any better?
No, I know you're in my life, and it's not going to get any better.
Respects for Jen's sanity.
That
please.
blink is me coming to terms with my life right now. That's what that is.
So, Heracles, just because North Carolina and Alaska are still counting their votes doesn't mean that Biden hasn't won. Even if Trump gets both of them, Biden currently, as things sit, the chances of overturning his lead in either of the states that currently have recounts announced are very, very low.
I believe they said the margin of error for a recount is anywhere between 280 and 350 votes. So,
which only mattered with Al Gore.
Well...
we're talking about thousands of votes in all of the
right, but had the Bush v. Gore recount gone through, Al Gore would have been our president.
And we might not be in the Middle East right now.
I always wondered if Al Gore became our president, right? And it became that Family Guy episode where nobody died and death has fucking nothing to do and shit. would we have gotten to a far right leader sooner because Al Gore was so hard on? Like,
probably not.
You don't
because
think so?
what would have happened if we had gotten Al Gore? Likely is we would have had 2 terms of Al Gore.
You think he would have went 2?
I think because of the era and the fact that Bush went 2 terms and he was Bush, I'm fairly certain he would have been a 2-term. And then after him, we would have probably gotten a Republican like a Bush, not like a Trump. And then I don't know where we would have gone from there. Maybe we
would have wound up right back here because it's the same.
Because after that we might, and it's hard to say because the era that we would have gotten.
But let's parse out the timeline. If we would have had Gore over Bush, right? We probably would have had Gore, then Bush, then Obama. Then Obama would have handled COVID.
And then likely Trump would be dead by the time we get to the next era. Unless
yeah, but then what's the option? Mike Pence? Well, then the option would have been Mike Pence.
Not necessarily. Mike Pence had a very clear idea of how to get power, and that was become VP, because VP is always a first step in getting into the presidency.
I'm thinking it may have been Mitt Romney.
We would have probably gotten a Romney.
Or which, I don't mind him too much.
We also might have gotten at some point a McCain. That would have been a possibility too.
Well, like speculating.
I mean, McCain seemed like a cool dude, but I don't want to live under his policies.
Jen.
Excuse me.
So, the reason that we wanted to talk tonight a little bit was because Biden, as you mentioned, Cyrus, and if you want to go into kind of one of the videos that you put out recently about this, the America Needs to Change video that you put out, Biden, as you said in that video, is kind of a band-aid. Like, we're going to be fighting and holding his administration accountable. He's going to do a lot better than Trump in just about every freaking way he can, but he's dealing with a gridlocked Senate, and he's also going to be dealing with...
That depends on what happens in January in Georgia, too.
So I'm going to go ahead and say right now there's 2 significant things that have happened with what's going on in Georgia that make it a toss-up. It's a... Right now, we cannot find David Perdue.
What do you mean you can't find him?
Look it up. David Perdue is not going to fucking events or anything right now. Like, it's not like he's a missing person or something, but currently the news is showing that he is one of the most inaccessible senators Georgia has had in years. Now, if you juxtapose that to the fact that John Ossoff, one, is not that charismatic or electable of a guy. Like, if you just
I've heard he's not too liked.
His advertisements are spoken by his wife and not him, and there's a reason for that. So, thing with John Ossoff, he's very much like almost like Beto O'Rourke when it comes to guns, which is not a position you want to be
in Georgia.
You don't want to be like Beto in Georgia.
I'm not liking this guy. Give me something that will get me to like him.
Like, let's see here. I'm trying to find the post, because I actually have a post on what's going on with Purdue.
Are we talking like a Shelley Miscavige situation here with David Perdue? Like, are we talking like this?
Well, I didn't want to get too deep into the setup as far as this is like concerned. The gridlock and such, and the fact that we also even had somebody as fascistic as Trump elected into office is part of the reason why this topic kind of came up. Because at this point, we've realized that it's still good to fight the government to try to get the things we need, but we also can't rely on the people in Congress to like provide those things. Like, we cannot rely on them at this point to enact popular will at all.
No.
So where we're at right now, and this is kind of what I said in the America Needs to Change video, we were given a choice this election. We were given a choice between a neoliberal who is to the left on some social issues, but to the right on a lot of economic issues. Functionally, I'm willing to call him a centrist, though we'll see what his policies look like once he's in office, assuming everything goes well.
He's definitely center left.
I've seen arguments that he's center right, and that's why I'm currently just sitting as I'm going to call him a centrist of some flavor until I see him
a centrist with oregano.
A centrist and it's vanilla flavored ice cream like the Biden meme. So for me, we had a choice between neoliberalism and fascism as our ideologies.
I'm going to respond to the chat really quick. Sam, you're actually wrong. Trump lost the last election by over 3 million votes. The popular vote did not elect him. The Electoral College did. I know you're foreign, so I know you don't know all that much about that. Go Google it. It is not fun.
So,
by the way, Aiden popped an update about Loeffler and Purdue.
Oh, also Purdue and Loeffler just put out a letter saying that they want the Republican Georgia Secretary of State to resign. Well, why didn't they just say that in an interview or in a conference?
Oh, right,
down there,
y'all.
Because he's not functionally
what
going
is
anywhere.
happening in Georgia right now?
So the concession that I made in the video basically is that we were given a choice between a neoliberal and a fascist, and people can argue left, right, and center. Is Trump a fascist? Ideologically, yes, he is. By Umberto Eco's estimation, granted he's not alive anymore, but by...
You did a video on that, too.
Yeah, I have. Whenever somebody's like, Trump's not a fascist, actually, I did a breakdown of that already. I did my homework. Did you?
Did you?
Umberto Eco is one of my favorite theorists, though I'm far more familiar with his work on semiotics than I am, on...
So there is a link in the description there to Fascism, which is the work that I referenced specifically to get the points for his. So I recommend reading it to anybody who has a chance to. It was in the New York Post, if memory serves. So because our choices were these two, there's two bad things that came from this. One, we didn't have a choice for socialism. Why does that matter? Well, it matters because if American politics are this center-right economic idea and this far-right economic idea,
we're still on the right.
there's a bunch of shit over here that is problematic. Also, for every single person that decides that, hey, we got Biden victory, yay, woo! You do understand that if we keep getting Republicans that are as far-right as Trump, and we keep getting Democrats that try to grab Republicans from that side, like what happened with the Lincoln Project, grab the disenfranchised Republicans, bring them over, the more of that you have, the further right the Democratic Party has to go to grab its votes. And the further right the Overton window in the country shifts. So not only is it bad that we did not have a functional left option
at all,
it shows that our Overton window is still so thoroughly skewed to the right, but there's a little bit of hope if you count like the Squad, if you count like ENMR and AOC, and if you count that whole thing, but that's its own conversation separate. Right. That's not.
I'm actually going to be touching on that in Thursday's video, literally titled "The Democrats Have Failed."
They have.
So
here's the other scary thing. It's not just that we didn't have a functional left option given to us. And every single person who sits there and goes, you could have voted Howie! No, I couldn't have. That was not on my ballot in Georgia.
Really? He was.
I had two different socialist candidates in my ballot, but this is Washington. Things are.
We had everyone to include Kanye West, and Tennessee gave the most votes to Kanye West in the country. Just putting that out there.
Firebomb Tennessee when?
Just
kidding.
Let me get out first. And then y'all can do whatever the fuck you want with this goddamn place. I don't give a shit.
So,
in Minecraft.
Here's the in Minecraft. Well, actually, in Microsoft Flight Simulator for this one.
I have that. I have it.
So,
There are Minecraft mods that let you build a.
I may be doing an extracurricular activity while my video uploads to Patreon this week.
For the record, by the way, if any of you guys donate to Surus's campaign directly in there, the paypal.me, please let me know in the chat, and I will read out whatever message you did.
If you're comfortable with it. If you want to donate anonymously, that's fine as well.
Yeah, you can do that too. But just if you guys want to, it'll function like a super chat for the purpose of this stream. I really want to help Surus out here because this sucks, and I know how expensive being a homeowner is.
So the other issue that we run into is not just the fact that our favorite flavor of the political spectrum is not represented accurately in politics in the United States. We have a more functional problem. That functional problem is that 71 million people in the United States voted for President Donald Trump.
Yeah.
That
71 million.
That is a scary number, especially if you consider the fact that voter turnout might not look the same next election. And also, while Biden, once the electoral votes come in, it's going to look on paper like, oh, Biden won by a landslide. He got 4 million more votes than Trump, and he's got like 100 more electoral votes. Look at Biden go, this was a landslide. No, the fuck it wasn't. Because in Georgia, he was only ahead by a few thousand. And in Pennsylvania, he was only ahead by a few thousand.
And with the availability of mail-in and absentee voting, there was no excuse to have anything less than 5%.
So the fact of the matter is, the margins, once everything's counted, will look stupendous. It will look like a landslide victory for Biden. But the reality of it is, those of us who know how the Electoral College works, knows how the votes have been tallied, will go, no, this was close. This was handled functionally. Had one more county in Georgia gone red, Georgia
it would have been over.
Georgia would be red.
Yeah.
If one more county in Pennsylvania were red, Pennsylvania would be red. It's looking that way for Arizona too, if I'm not mistaken. If Maricopa County had decided to skew a little more red, as it usually does, had Trump not shot down Arizona's golden boy, John McCain, it would have been very different. Busy. I have plenty clothes on, sweetheart. Oh, I was just going to tell him to stop jerking off in the chat.
I mean, that's fine. I appreciate that I am used in a spank bank. That's great. I have no problem with it. However, I would put a burqa on, but I live in the South and it's rather warm. So would you prefer me to just sit in my bra instead? Because that's been done and I can do that again.
Well, and Frosty Brand actually brings up a really good point here, and that is... And this is something that you brought up too, actually, Cyrus, in your election day stream. And Jen, you've talked about it as well, like here and in other places. Out of 150 million votes, nearly half of that was Republican, not specifically Trump. There are so many posts of people just saying they didn't support Trump, but couldn't allow the so-called Democrats to take over.
Frosty, I'm going to be touching on that, as well as many of these were not votes in support of Biden. They were votes against Trump.
Well, yeah, and
which is very different. Which is very, very different.
I talked about that too when we were dealing with, we don't talk about community drama, but there were things on Twitter that happened. And if you go check my Twitter account, for those of you who follow me, I don't know why you do, but thank you. I posted a thing in response to somebody who was calling for civility, kind of talking about that and talking about the fact that this was a hate vote election and that a bright-eyed...
Yeah, this whole, you know what this election was? Hate fucking your ex. This election was either hate fucking your ex or fucking his brother to get back at him for cheating on you. So that's what this election was.
But my question is, if this was like hate fucking your ex, why is it that there was no climax?
Because you hate fucked your ex. You hate fucked your ex. Just because it was a hate fuck doesn't mean he got any better in bed.
So, they kind of finally getting to the topic at hand, half an hour in, we can't rely on the government to enact the policy of the people. Even though the majority of people in this country definitively support LGBT rights, like this is something we've seen in poll after poll, even though the majority in this country support marijuana legalization, even though the majority in this country support healthcare, like we have found time after time after time that because of the way that the country's population is divvied up, there is a contingent that's going to fight against all of those things.
People also end up voting on party lines and not on policy. And you can't convince anybody to vote on policy because the more people you convince to vote on policy, if you get them from the wrong side of the political spectrum, you just end up handing elections to the other side.
I'm sorry, I'm cracking up at Theory German's comment.
No climax because we're all on antidepressants. Was I able to come when I was on Klonopin? I don't remember.
I was the only one that was able to make me come on antidepressants. I was the only one to do it.
I'm not going to talk
and let me tell you, I jackhammered my clit like I was mad at it because I was.
Let's to pay respects for our monetization status, please.
Jen, bad.
Well, I was mad at it.
So, we were going to talk a little bit tonight about things like direct action and mutual aid. Now, keep in mind, we're not necessarily going to be talking about the policies to fight for. Jen covers that pretty thoroughly on her show, and we're probably going to be talking more about that on this show, like in episodes to come. We're still talking about
as the policy.
Yeah, as we start to see what this new administration's going to do with their lives and what the lame duck's going to try to do. But this is also a reminder to everybody that there's literally nothing stopping Trump other than potentially, like, getting indicted for crimes that to stop him from running in the next, like, election after this one.
Well, so here's the thing.
Trumpers might still have a chance.
And if they decide to prosecute Trump, you guys aren't going to get it. You guys aren't going to get it like you thought you would. He's not going to go through the Supreme Court. He's not going to do anything like that. He's going to be tried in New York. And he will either go sit in some Camp Cupcake bullshit, or they're going to send him to upstate. They're going to try him by the state. So Felipe, there is some shit going on in New York with some shady ass funds. So the state of New York will either prosecute him, or the federal government will prosecute him in the, can't remember the name of the court for New York, the Southern District of New York Federal Court will wind up prosecuting him. The only way that Trump will not run, I think, in 2024 is if he is incarcerated.
That's what I feel as well. Now the question is, if he runs, will the Republican Party willingly nominate him? Probably.
You think so?
I think so, and here's why.
Even after the absolute shit show that he's now displaying and lost.
Because here's my prediction. I predict that Biden is going to get stonewalled so thoroughly hard that the narrative that Trump began in the beginning of Biden being the 47-year do nothing Biden, didn't do anything in 47 years, and then accuses him of the crime bill, which is functionally doing something. But let's just engage.
While he was golfing, while the results came in.
So let's just ignore the fact that is Trump even good at golf? I have no fucking idea. Anyway,
he does it quite often though, but
it doesn't mean he's good at it. He makes businesses quite often, and they fail too. So my prediction is that Biden's going to get stonewalled, and he's going to get stonewalled so thoroughly hard that the narrative that Trump span in his campaign this year is going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy, and as a result, he can run on the platform. I was able to sign more executive orders than any other president. I was able to do more than
I got the stimulus done.
I told you Biden wasn't going to do anything. Who got you 2 stimulus packages? That was me. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it again.
Are we on 2?
So, we are on the second one. Mitch McConnell has stonewalled it repeatedly, and whenever it's brought up, he sent it out of session. I made a tweet as soon as the 9th hit. It was like, hey, guess what? It's the 9th. You know what that means?
Senate's back.
Session. Mm-hmm. How much do you want to bet they're going to just ignore the fact that it's
from what I remembered, Donald Trump held the stimulus package over the country's head. Mm-hmm. If you vote for me, I will release it. But now that we haven't, he will not.
Well, so here's the thing. He did that, and then the stock market crashed, and then he backpedaled and immediately went, no. If a stimulus package that just has the $1,200 is presented to me on my desk, I will sign it right now. And then that never happened because Trump doesn't know how the Senate works.
Victoria, yes. Biden and Mitch McConnell are actually friends just because of the fact that they've worked together for 47 years. However, that does not pull any sway on the Senate floor. Mitch McConnell answers to the GOP. He does not answer to Joe Biden because Joe Biden, he held 4 years. He can have the influence. There are no term limits for senators. And if he wants the GOP to keep propping him up as one, that is who he answers to at the end of the day.
So, coming back to what we wanted to talk about tonight was direct individual things that we can do. We keep trying, but we keep talking about it because let's face it, we are all collectively recovering from some trauma. I like the past.
Yeah,
years have
and
been
you
hell
know,
for all of us.
I've said it. Y'all ever been in a real fucked up relationship and then the next guy or the next person wasn't great, but he kind of patched you over during your healing time, and then you kind of went on to better that rebound right after a real fucked up relationship? Maybe Biden's that rebound, and that's okay. That kind of real boring person.
At the very least, we know he's not going to deliberately make anything worse, and that's the important thing. That's why Sir has called him a Band-Aid.
I got one disagreement. I'm fairly certain that Biden's a hawk, so he can make things a lot worse in the Middle East.
I was talking more about things like climate change, which we've been discussing heavily on the channel.
No, but if he does decide to work the same way that Obama did, this is fucking terrible for the fucking climate, because he's gonna hit the Middle East, he's gonna hit fucking oil reserves, he's gonna burn them up, so there goes that in the fucking atmosphere. You've got troops on the ground, that's more shipping, that's more vehicles, that's a shit ton of burn pits.
Can you just imagine Biden acting like Trump? You see, in my presidency, I actually lowered the amount of fracking over 4 years. Look at the statistics. I lowered the amount of fracking. Don't you see that? Come on, man. And then there's going to be somebody like a logic type of person that like deep dives into shit who's going to look at that and go, that's because the net amount of oil reserves in the world went down when you bombed them.
When you bombed the fuck out of them, Joe. That's why. And that's part of why Obama was able to say that oil prices had dropped so low under his term, is because he bombed the fuck out of oil reserves. Just willy-nilly.
Philippe, the reason that hawk is used as opposed to warmonger is because hawk deals specifically with stuff like drone strikes, with carpet bombing, with stuff like that. It is literally, like, look up the term liberal war hawk.
Yeah, it's hawk and dove, I think, are the two terms.
Yeah.
I always think of it as instead of ground troops, think of birds.
Yeah.
They prefer to come out from the sky than on the ground.
It's the signature United States shock and awe campaign.
So, as my fifth attempt to get us back on topic, do you guys want to kind of talk a little bit about, hey, Cirrus, no.
That's how we solve the problems, ladies and gentlemen. We're done here for tonight. Good night.
Look, I'm trying my damnedest here, all right? Like, half of my job is to, make sure we stay on top.
I stumbled on the Boondock Saints last night at, midnight, and that's what I watched before I went to bed, so everything is solvable like this now for me.
With just handguns.
I want to learn the prayer from the Boondock Saints, but we are not getting off of topic. Like, don't you dare, Jen. Don't do it. So, the thing that I wanted to discuss tonight, and that Jen and I had talked about, was things like direct action. Now, most of us, when we think of direct action, most people think of things like voting, most people think about things like protesting, but there's actually a whole host of things that you can do even outside of an election year to make things a little easier for your fellow man, even if you don't have a lot of means yourself. And that's part of what we wanted to talk about tonight.
Volunteer at a soup kitchen.
Yeah, volunteering in a soup kitchen is actually a good example.
Start a community garden.
Or even participate in existing community gardens. A lot of people...
If you have them. They're not really prominent in the South.
They actually do exist. You kind of have to look up... There's a particular company that does them. And I will find the information for that and put it in the live chat fairly shortly.
See, but that's the thing. There's a company that does them. We ain't here for fucking capitalism, y'all.
It's a non-profit.
I don't give a fuck. We ain't here for capitalism. This is... Look at the Trump supporters, y'all. This is the zombie apocalypse. This is it. Granted, they're not eating us, but they're just as fucking brainless. You got Mitch the Lich sitting up, just decaying up there. Y'all, we're in the zombie apocalypse. This shit is about, if the world fucking falls, how do you take care of your neighborhood? How do you take care of your next door neighbor so that they don't come and shoot you for your fucking supplies when the people are trying to eat them at their door?
So, can I respond in the most Georgian way possible?
Yeah.
So, Would you like to know how many weeks one can live off of a single deer?
How many? I'm genuinely curious now.
The answer to that may surprise you. Depending on the size of the deer, you can actually survive off the meat of a deer for 2 to 5 months.
Really?
So it comes
the deer
down...
family behind the house is fucking going then. Holy shit. Okay.
Oh, the reason you can do this, as long as you're not making like, I'm gonna make butterfly steaks today and I'm gonna make a bunch of deer burgers tomorrow. No, if you incorporate deer meat into stuff like hamburger helpers and stuff like that, where you're only using a pound every now and again, and you're only using it for one meal each day, not like I'm gonna do deer for breakfast, deer for lunch, like you can go for a very long time on that deer. Now, why does this matter? We're talking about direct action.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a chest freezer and you can hunt, which as long as you're in deer season, which in here means you have a crossbow and a 22 rifle, because if you're, well, it doesn't necessarily just have to be a 22 rifle, but if you want to preserve your meat, probably a good idea. I myself have a crossbow. What you're going to want to do is figure out what season you're in, get your hunter's license. It's like $50 to $70. And you can go hunt. You don't have enough time to start a garden? Fine. All it takes is a little bit of equipment, a little bit of patience, and go out on a hunting day, get a deer, get the meat, find somebody who can skin it. Some butcher shops will do it for you for like $80.
Sometimes your neighbors will do it for free if you offer to split the meat with them.
Yeah. So take that, split that up, and if you go to somewhere that is like a soup kitchen, donate some of the meat to the soup kitchen. You can do like these are things where you can just go, yeah, no, I don't want to volunteer at the soup kitchen. I don't want to cook. I don't want to deal with people. But you know what I can do? I can go hunt and I can give some of the meat to the kitchen.
Yep.
That's a thing you can do. And it's not hard if you already hunt, and if you're in Georgia, probably
you need to know that it depends on the kitchen whether or not they will take the donations. You need to check with them ahead of time to see if they need it processed in a specific facility. For example, in Washington, if you want to donate meat that you have hunted to a food bank or a soup kitchen or something like that, it actually has to be processed in a state-run facility. So make sure you check your local laws before you try to do that if you're trying to help out a organization rather than just a neighbor.
Community gardens.
That goes with everything.
So I have a lot of experience with this. Way back when Jen was living in New York.
Pea Patch, by the way, was the company that I was thinking of.
Pea Patch.
The small nonprofit that does that. Pea Patch. It's P-Patch. That's the company that I was thinking of.
Way back when, a lot of the way that I got involved in community action was through gardens. And yes, you can find vacant lots if it's owned by the city. Usually the city will sell you a vacant lot super fucking cheap. But for those of you who live in the South, or those of you who live in an area with high-rise buildings, not all rich people are dicks. If you can find a person who is wealthy, who does genuinely want to help, if in the South you get big sprawling acreages and houses, ask them if you can use a patch of their land as a community garden and then offer to distribute the fruit or whatever, the fruits, the vegetables that you grow through the neighborhood. High-rise buildings, there's usually like a patch on the roof. Ask the building owner where you can start to do a community garden on a roof. These things can go up fucking anywhere. They can go up over concrete. They can go up over land. They can go up everywhere. And part of we'll split the fruit, the vegetables and shit. Part of that is if you're participating, come help us out. But first dibs go towards children, the elderly, those who are disabled, those who can't help. That's how you start fucking feeding your neighborhood.
Well, and some food banks also, I actually helped run a nonprofit up in North Seattle, where we were working on actually getting a plot of land. Shit happened with it. I don't want to go too deep into it, but one of the things that we did was we allied with a food bank. And if you can get an organization started, first off, filing as a nonprofit in most states is not hard. at all. So if you want to get legitimacy, like creating a nonprofit is not difficult.
The one thing that a lot of I'm thinking 501c3s, but
501c3 is hard. Your nonprofit may not necessarily get people tax deductions. That takes years. But starting an actual nonprofit company is as simple as filing for a business license.
If you want to go 501c3, get a fucking accountant.
If you want to go 501c3, get a lawyer.
Get a goddamn accountant. Seriously, just fucking do it that way.
An accountant and a lawyer, and make sure that if you're paying your board of directors, that it's very, very low. There's an entire freaking mess for that. But if you do start a nonprofit, like me and a group of friends actually did in northern Seattle, you can sometimes partner up with places like food banks, and that gives you legitimacy and makes it more likely for people like business owners that might have a plot of land out back that they don't need to use it. That's what we did, was we helped start that. Or like some church groups, like I know a lot of people don't like churches, but some church groups will actually ally with nonprofits. Like,
I'm going to tell a testament here. We have a food bank church that's here, and a dude that I was dating who was also an atheist went into Kroger, bought 2 shopping carts full of food. They asked him what church he was with. He didn't even say he was an atheist. He said he was not affiliated. And they wouldn't take the donation.
Well, there's what I'm talking about more is like working with like maybe for extra land, because that's something we also did like through.
Instead of churches, if you're worried about going to churches, look for your local Unitarian Universalist chapter or Unitarian Universalist group. They tend to be Episcopalians too. They tend to be far more encompassing. There's also an organization called Sunday Assembly, which is secular based. That tends to do a lot of this shit too. So if you're iffy about it, or if you think the church, any kind of Christian church is going to be super judgmental, look for Unitarian Universalists or Sunday Assembly. Is a good start for that.
Yeah, and these are all things that you yourself can do. Again, the filing fee for like starting a nonprofit up here was something like $40 back when we did it. And like once you get that going and you get a couple like small programs going, as long as you can you might have to work with your city again, depending on the way that it works. But like you can actually start this stuff yourself. It's not as difficult as most people think. The difficulty is making sure you get qualified people that you're working with to help you manage your finances and stuff like that. But you'd be surprised at how like excited people can get to start working on these projects. Or if it's more difficult for that, a lot of states have existing programs like PPatch and like Seattle TILF up here in Washington. There are local organizations like that do community gardening, and some will even help low-income people that are either renting a house and can get permission from the landlord, or people who have, say, patio-type gardens. They will help them get started gardening in order to help grow their own food. And you might be able to take advantage of a program like that and maybe share your produce with your neighbors. So this is the kind of stuff that we're talking about.
I'm keeping an eye on the chat. Are we now talking about wolves stealing deer meat and fighting wolves in our chat right now?
Yes,
we're legitimate. Okay.
There was a question asked about what was the relevance of the gray wolf population versus the deer population when hunting, and the gist of it is if the gray wolf population is high, then it's not as safe to go hunt, because once you shoot that deer and start tracking it, you might not be the only one tracking it.
Yep. Yep, you may have a whole little family tracking it with you.
And if you have to fight off a wolf, which just pointed out that they are still on the endangered list right now, so there might be some issues with legality.
Even if you survive.
Yeah, there might be some issues with legality. So you have to be kind of careful.
Mm-hmm. Another resource another resource that we wound up doing when I was living in New York was co-op childcare. You got all your neighbors together and you figured out each other's schedules, and we did kind of this roundabout childcare to where it didn't even take money. It was, I have to work these days, or I need to run errands on these days. So if you can watch my kid from this time to this time, I can either watch yours on another day, or I can come cook you dinner, or I can, help you tend to your garden, tend to your weeds. We did this co-op thing, and it was mainly centered around childcare, so that people could go to work without spending $1,000, $2,000 a month in childcare. Learn to barter your services with your neighbors. Learn how to.
Good example of that, actually. When when COVID hit in its first wave, Where I live...
Oh, so the Tiger King and stimulus check portion of COVID?
Yes.
Okay. The fun time. Okay. Yeah. The
fun part of COVID.
Gotcha.
We never ended up having to do this.
There was a fun part. That's when I had COVID.
Yeah, Tiger King and stimulus checks. You had COVID.
So during the earliest sections of this, me and a friend of mine actually had worked out a barter system where I asked him, hey, what resources are you not able to get where you are right now? He lived up in Ranger, so flour was really hard for him to get because he's not near any shops there in the woods. However, meat and canned vegetables were very easy for him to come by because they had a garden and they hunt. So we worked out a system. Hey, I'm going to go buy excess flour whenever it is available in my area to barter with for meat, because in my area, all the meat was sold out.
Mm-hmm.
So
that happened up here too.
So
we have that issue here as well.
Identify what resources you have that a neighbor like who's 40 minutes to an hour away geographically from you doesn't have, and you can do wonders with that.
We did something similar with my in-laws, actually. We could get Lysol up here, but there was no toilet paper, and they could get toilet paper, but they could not get Lysol.
Do y'all know I found Lysol? Do y'all know I found Lysol the other day? I found it.
I knew it was coming.
I found it. I haven't. It's right over there. I haven't seen
Jen
Lysol.
was like stroking this, and calling it her precious on WhatsApp.
I don't want to use it. Like I don't even want to use it. Like I don't want to give it up. But I got 2 cans.
Are you gonna let it down?
Lysol.
Hold on.
Good Lysol.
Oh my God, Jen is gonna do this on camera. I love you, Jen.
Oh my God. Jen, don't.
Which one, Cirrus? Which one?
Don't. Nope.
Welcome to the bridge,
Take
everybody.
me, not the Lysol.
Nope.
What the fuck, y'all? This is bad.
I love this thing.
I have Lysol.
There's something very satisfying about bolt action guns. I'm sorry.
Aether, it was about $8 a can. What the fuck is even happening here right now? It was about $8 a can out here. So it wasn't fucking cheap.
Jen, why do you still use the equivalent of earbuds?
I like earbuds. I don't like things over my head. It bothers me.
I like them because I'm balding and it holds my hair back.
Wait, is that Raz or my kid? Hold on. This is
Raz.
every stream with me and Cyrus. Is that Raz or my kid?
I
don't like this feeling bothers me.
Hercules, at some point I would like an actual bolt action rifle because I fired them on the range before. And I need a rifle to hunt with because in Georgia the hunting season flip-flops. It goes from rifle season to crossbow season, and I've only got a crossbow.
So to get back on topic again. We've done this before, not here because my fucking neighbors are shit, but when I was living back
for the record, those of you that are in the Discord, I just put up the poll with the 2 emotes that you guys would need to vote on it. I finally got it up.
What we would do, I mean, granted, this is when I lived back up north because my fucking neighbors are shit. We would know somebody who was on disability, who was old or wasn't coming in with full income, and we would get together. What the fuck is my child doing? What are you doing? He's putting the dishes away, which I can't even get mad at that it's bedtime and he's putting the dishes away because he's putting the fucking dishes away. Anyway, I'm on the friggin'
Welcome to the bridge, everybody.
Oh my gosh. I might as well use this time to just... Hold on.
Jen, we have an F-bomb counter in the chat tonight, and you are making
I said friggin'
to do their job.
I said friggin' to the kid. So what we would do is...
Now, frigates?
Friggin'. I say friggin' to the kid. So what we would do is we would know somebody who was on disability or somebody who was on unlimited income, and we would get together every month and pool very small amounts of our own salary to help pay for water, electric, like basic utilities and stuff. So that this way it wasn't such a hit on just one person, but it also alleviated the stress on somebody who doesn't quite know what to do when the world ends.
So, by the way, for those who don't know, I have put it in the chat twice now, but there are also mutual aid networks. These are more funding based for those of you who have a little bit of money to spare. These are networks, and I like the website that I linked there shows networks by state. These are fundraisers that go towards specific mutual aid goals, things like bail funds for BLM protesters, to there's one that helps people with new home ownership. There's one that's a Black-owned business bail fund. If you scroll through there, you can find your state and see which ones are in your state, so you can do stuff locally, or you can just kind of look through for causes that you support. But if you have a couple of extra bucks and you haven't, and you've got some to spare after, say, helping out Surus, then that is a link to some various networks that are known for helping people out. And some of them are severely underfunded because they're in states where this sort of consideration isn't really given quite as much. So it's worth looking through and seeing if you got a couple bucks to spare. Those are a few good causes.
Yeah, can you highlight what Aiden said? Oh my god, my eyes, I need new glasses. Yes. Giving food, helping with housework. Aiden, what we would do instead of giving the money directly to that person, we would actually pool the money together in like a PayPal, or have one person collect the money and then actually go down to the utility service and pay their bill for them.
That guarantees the money goes to the right place.
Well, yeah, but we knew about the asset thing. That's why we were like, we'll just go and pay that. This way it's kind of one less thing. Where a lot of us are talking about basic necessities, food, water, shit like that. But your sanity is a basic necessity too. A big thing that we used to do up north was old books. We used to pile together old books and then exchange them just to have something.
There's a version of that happens on street corners out here in some neighborhoods.
Yeah, we don't have that.
Up north,
the free library?
It's take one, leave one. There are like these large cabinets that people will put, and like my neighborhood doesn't have one, but the one I lived in up in Lake City did, where it's these massive like weatherproofed cabinets, and you take something out of them, and the agreement is you have to leave something. Kind of like geocaches, but they can have anything in them from, like, when people moved out, they would leave entire pot and pan sets that were barely scratched that you could find in there. You could find, like, sometimes old furniture nearby. You could find, like, food. You never knew what you'd find in there. Books were very common. Like, people would put their old textbooks and stuff in the one, because, like, mine was a college neighborhood. So, like, all of the college students, even though it was far away from the UW, like, all of us lived there because it was the only place that you could afford to live if you didn't live in the dorms. And, like, people would put their old textbooks in there. And the whole idea was if you took anything, you had to leave something. But setting something like that up and putting a couple of seed items in there, even if they're not really valuable items, you'd be really surprised how generous people get once you've got the infrastructure set up for you to do it. And weatherproofing, like, people put like old cabinets and things out on street corners all the time in a lot of places. Weatherproofing one of those is not expensive. It's not hard to do. And just setting something like that up can bring out the generosity in people and can start fostering that kind of local mutual aid idea.
Yeah. And I know this sounds really apocalyptic. I get it. But this also goes a long way when you live housework help. When you live in an economy and you live under leadership that does not give a fuck if you're taken care of. This is all meant to alleviate just some of the everyday life stresses. Sorry, there's that weird humming going on.
I heard that now.
Again. Yeah. This has been happening for weeks. And every time I go outside when it's happening, it smells like diesel fuel. It sounds like a fucking it sounds and smells like a fucking airplane is going off. This has been happening for months.
You've got a revenant stalking your house. It'll be dead in a week.
It's been 2 months. Would it fucking die already? Jesus Christ. Like, shit, come over. I'll give you pizza if it shuts you the fuck up. But Jesus fuck, either die or come inside. One of the two. But yeah, these are things that if your leadership...
Like you're fucking your ex again.
I'm so far into COVID that I've considered it. Not my ex-husband, the other ex. No, there's no pandemic enough that'll get me to fuck my ex-husband again. Anyway. Yeah. We would die as humans, people. But I know we're talking about, like, if the world should end, fucking basic structures, just fucking collapsed on us. But these are little things that make life easier when you live in a capitalist society that is just growing and growing and growing the divide even more, and you're living under capitalist fucking leaders that don't give a shit that you're living in poverty. They don't give a shit that you're not benefiting from busting your ass for 80 fucking hours a week. And you know the thing, there are things like food and childcare and basic fucking sanity items, just basic fucking things to get your mind off of it for the fucking 2 hours a fucking week that you don't have work, that go a long way in this kind of economy. Childcare can go for $2,000 to $3,000 a month. I'm not
and it's
kidding.
Honestly, not that expensive to get a babysitting license if you want to do something like that.
No, and that was the big deal with the co-op, was with the childcare co-op, was we didn't have to pay $3,000 a month, $2,000 or $3,000 a month for somebody to watch our fucking kids. You got a group of people that you knew their homes, you knew their kids, you knew these people, and you'd rotate. You'd rotate out. The only thing we didn't do this with is medication, because medication is different for each person, and you do not want to go to jail for fucking meds. That's the only thing that we didn't.
This is a really good point. Domestic violence shelters, I've actually done things where I've gone to domestic violence shelters and asked for sizes for, like, the occupants. They're like, hey, is anybody here having a hard time finding clothes in their size? And I would make stuff for them. Like,
also,
like, people would actually be able to wear things, especially toward the wintertime. Baby blankets and stuff are really popular for those as well.
Also, domestic violence shelters also take children. You've got the PS5 and the Xbox Series X coming out. Take your old systems and donate them. Don't throw them out. Donate them out. Donate them to domestic violence shelters. Donate them to after school programs. Donate them to a local, even if you find a local church that has an after school program, donate it there. Give these kids just something to do.
Well, and if
That's
you,
me.
like, another thing that we have done is we have 22 square foot gardening boxes in our backyard. I've talked about gardening extensively. One of them every year is dedicated to the food bank. I call them every year, ask them what their most popular produce is, and I grow them a percentage of that every year that I'm able to grow.
There's another thing that, this is the thing that me and actual Jake over from Hannah and Jake talked about. Ask if you go to any of these places that have kids. Ask if they have any kids that are into computers.
Yes.
There is a thing you can get them that will help them learn how to use computers and learn how to do a lot of neat shit on them. And they're really cheap. They're called Raspberry Pi systems.
Yes, Raspberry Pi.
Raspberry Pis are inexpensive. You can get them for $80 to $100. Get them just a 2 RAM model, 2 gigabytes of RAM. It's going to cost you maybe $80. You can even get them a kit where they assemble it into a functional PC. And you can get them a I don't have it with me right now, but
my kids is upstairs. So
it's a very tiny, like, it's a tiny almost game controller looking thing that has a full keyboard and a trackpad on it, so that they can manipulate the whole computer from a tiny thing. And the Raspberry Pi is as big as a wallet, so they can take it wherever. They can do schoolwork on it. They can learn programming on it, which means that they can actually find a way through having access to a computer really early on in a situation they might not otherwise be able to use it in. They might actually be able to have a way functionally out of poverty by learning how to do things that people need in the future, like programming websites, like learning how to do PHP, like learning programming web languages like Python and C. Things, if they have any kids who like computing and you have the money to spare, it is cheaper than buying a new console, and it's both educational and helpful.
We started that last year with my kid with that was summer projects, was building Raspberry Pis. He built an entire streaming device on his. Like, he's got every fucking streaming service that we have, and it's up in his room. And
well, here's a fun one. If you really want to motivate a kid who might not be as motivated but likes computers, you can build a old school emulation device on a Raspberry Pi fairly easily, and that
RetroPie.
Yep,
that's the next
There's
project here, actually.
Ready-made programming. We have one here, and RetroPie actually can run retro games and such without the delay on like modern TVs and stuff. But you can very easily also get little game controllers that mimic the old systems as well online that are USB that can hook up directly to the Pi.
Hold up.
Yep, like the N64 controller. I've got an SNES one.
We were actually talking about doing that next summer for an old school NES emulator.
Later, Russ.
Oh yeah. Another thing you can do, if you're thinking of consoles, should still be really cheap right now. Nintendo Wii's, and here's a couple reasons why. One, exercise.
Yes.
Two, more importantly, if we're on the topic of getting them emulation machines, the Wii is an emulation beast, and it is not hard to set it up to do it. And the difference between a Wii and a Pi cannot run the Nintendo 64. A Wii can.
Because my kid's on that fucking Wii all goddamn day long. I don't have a fucking living room TV because of the fucking Wii all day long.
You can
I said Wii, and I swear he's coming downstairs.
You can turn it into an N64, and you can turn it into a SNES and a Game Boy and all of that stuff with emulation. Okay.
Yeah, because that's all I need is less time on my fucking living room TV. Because that's all I fucking need now. Fantastic. Yeah, wonderful. But I'm getting the kid a fucking Xbox that I'm never going to touch now. Ever. Okay, good to know.
But here's the other thing that I do want to caveat, and this is one of the things that, because of the fact that I was gardening, wasn't necessarily stressed by the food bank, but you talked earlier about somebody who went and bought 2 shopping carts worth of food and donated it. In general, it's actually better to give the money directly to food banks, because food banks can get deals with
See here that they wouldn't do it here. Yeah, the church wouldn't do it.
About, like, state-run food banks, which we have here, or, like, quote-unquote secular food banks. If you have one, if you have a state-run food bank or a secular food bank near you, they have deals with like farmers markets and with farmers and with supermarkets where they can get food for less than 1/10 of the price that you would pay to donate it. And they can get stuff like produce and meat and other things. And that's something that, like, the food banks up here let me know. Like, they were ended up being okay with it because I was like, hey, I'm literally growing this food. So they were like, oh, okay. But for the most part, if you're thinking about donating stuff, like, most of the time, it's actually better to give money directly to the food bank because they can make it stretch a lot further than you can.
That's a good idea.
That is an excellent idea. I see we don't have state-run food banks here. They're all privately run.
Yeah, we have state-run food banks here, like, all through King County. We have King County food banks, and there's one in nearly every neighborhood in Seattle, and there's several of them for, like, within different cities through King County. So, but
wow, Sarah, I'm almost at you at this point. Looking in the chat, I'm almost at you at this point. We're on shit. 5 TVs, 1 CRT. I'm almost at your point.
That's my community room is 5 TVs.
Wait, that's one room?
That's one room.
Holy fuck.
That is the gaming room.
That's in my whole house.
That is one room. One of the TVs is up to the surround sound system. One of the TVs is a CRT for retro gaming. There's a couch and a futon and a computer chair and a fold-out table.
So I come visit and I get totally shit-faced at your house. That's the room I'm crashing in, right?
And you can do that because the futon folds out and there's a 3-inch thick memory foam mattress that plops on it so that it can do that exactly.
I can never bring my kid to your house because he will never leave.
Also, the room
I'm not dealing with that.
The room is the only place in the house right now with air conditioning because it is the only one with its own air conditioning unit. So I've been going after streams because I get too hot. I've literally just gone to the other side of the house and just gone, okay, I'm sitting on the couch.
Okay.
I'm sitting in the AC.
Which puts up a really good point. A lot of rural families don't have cars. You're also not going to get grocery deliveries out there. You're not going to get things like Instacart. You're not going to get things like Postmates out there. Link up with your neighbors. For the people who do have vehicles, link up and discuss neighborhood grocery runs. Or one day a week if the neighborhood decides, hey, you know, we're going to have our fast food night on this night. One person can go and kind of do the runs and pick that up as well. Right now, we can't do parks right now, but once we can, look to co-op with your neighbors. So that, hey, I'm going to bring my kids to the park this day. I know you have to work that day. I'll take the kids to the park. And in exchange, you take my kids to a park the other day. Or, you know, I'll come clean your house or cook dinner or whatever the fucking case may be.
Well, and obviously all of us grew up with stranger danger. This all comes with the caveat, like, make sure you know people before you work with them.
Right, I'm not saying drop your kids off at fucking you don't know this motherfucker's house. Get to know your neighbors, granted, but...
Well, I'm saying that in part because of the Pacific Northwest cold shoulder. Out here, it's a lot harder to get to know your neighbors. I know a couple of mine, not a ton of them. But with things like what I was talking about with refurbishing, like the take one, leave one stuff, that's something you can do that passively kind of creates that closeness.
What
and
you can
that can start the idea of mutual aid in your area, which can then open you up to some of these other ideas that Jen and Cyrus have been talking about.
Right. What you can also do is Facebook, Twitter. I don't know if Twitter has groups, but I know Facebook has a lot of local groups, to where it becomes easier to know the people living around you because you have this kind of blanket, this wall of
programs.
online. Right,
like
free cycle
groups. Those are another good way to do
things. But even getting to know your neighbors in order to trust them to this point, go look on Facebook. They have a lot of local Facebook groups. The neighborhood app allows neighbors to sit and talk to each other through a message board. So you can get to know people a little bit better without having the awkwardness of
I'm going to give you a fair warning if you do that. It's not that that's a bad idea, but I will tell you my experience with that, because that's what I tried to do in my
or
Facebook.
Neighborhood. Okay.
That's the Facebook neighborhood group and the Facebook county group for everybody living in my county, which I'm not going to dox myself. The experience was that I had to actually leave out of rage, because anytime anything political happened, of any flavor or variety, everyone started fighting constantly. And guess what?
That's small town shit, though.
In my line of work, I just see opportunities when I see that. And eventually my mental health declined. And I had to leave. I was just nope, I'm done. Here
we've kind of had the COVIDiots take over the neighborhood groups. It's been MAGA-loving COVIDiots that have taken over. So it's, I've pulled back a bit for my own mental health.
Well, this is why I suggested focused groups like Free Cycle, because the local Free Cycle groups won't let you talk about politics. The moderators will shut that down. And Free Cycle is actually another really good example. If you need to get rid of things, put them up on Free Cycle. Set things up so that somebody can come pick them up. I know not everybody can always afford to do that, but if it's something that is otherwise functional and you're not certain that you can, say turn it in for something, or if you're thinking you're just going to throw it out, chances are there's probably somebody who wants it who can't afford it.
I'm listening. I'm trying to type at the same time, and we all know I can't do that.
You're doing your best.
And
I'm doing my Trump.
You're doing your Trump.
Felipe, bigotry can be an issue when organizing these things, absolutely. But that's part of the reason we've talked about both direct things where you can get involved with a group, or do things directly, and indirect things like the thing on the corner, or like something like Free Cycle or something like that, where getting to meet up or something isn't not near as necessary. The idea is to kind of get it into folks' minds that this is a possibility, because as Womcat pointed out earlier, we've kind of all been indoctrinated by capitalism to believe there has to be a profit motive for literally everything we do. The reason that all of this mutual aid stuff sounds post-apocalyptic is not because it is. It's because of the fact that we've all been trained that the dollar is the only transaction that's meaningful.
But yeah, this is literally how things went for a very, 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 very long time. Capitalism and the dollar have not been around as long as these systems have.
Can I recommend a book that I'm reading right now that actually Howard Zinn's A People's History of the World. I am in the middle of that book right now because my old history teacher recommended it to me.
Go check out that stream, y'all, on Cyrus's channel.
And I am very glad he recommended it to me, because every single time, for all of you who know who Pete Seeger is, every single time Pete Seeger said, "Oh yeah, no, the American natives practiced communism." Anytime somebody says communism was never practiced and didn't work, the American natives practiced it before they got overran by the Europeans.
Stares angrily and native. I have made this point so many times.
And then going through Howard Zinn's book, I'm just like, no, they did.
They did.
They not only practiced that, they also practiced polyamory.
Some tribes did.
Some tribes did, yeah. We're not going to say that this was culture as a whole. But yeah.
How some tribes also acknowledged tribes also acknowledge trans folks as well. It's a different view than kind of the way that binary trans works in the modern day, but like that was another thing.
That's kind of a whitewashed thing. Everyone seems to think that natives were all one culture when they were not. Yes.
No, and also Howard Zinn's book makes that concession as well, that they aren't without violence because there are disagreements between native tribes, though he did also note that generally when disagreements happened, they happened more on an individual level and less because a political leader said go kill these guys.
Yes. Less because I have to join the military in order to graduate college, or I have to join the military because my parents are kicking me out at 18 and I have nowhere to live and nothing to eat. So now I have to go kill people for it.
So when Leakai mentions that this is very much the current lens of capitalism kind of painting things the way it is right now, if you want to see an honest look at a world before capitalism existed the way it does right now, go read Howard Zinn's book. It is not politically biased. It is just a functional,
it's a telling of history. Yeah, it's just a telling of history.
He literally goes, let's tell history, but instead of telling it from the perspective of the victors, let's tell it from the perspective of everyone. It's a phenomenal book so far. I have not finished it yet.
I'm so glad you got into that one. That one's a good one.
Well, and, like I have actually made that point 1.5 million times, because a lot of people don't want to call what many tribes practiced communism because an old white guy didn't write about it. But the thing is, if you guys are familiar with Camazotz, he's a Twitch streamer. Camazotz and I have talked at length on streams about, along with a buddy of mine who's Polynesian, about the fact that a lot of native tribes, communism is natural to us. You talked about collective babysitting. That was that's just what happened. The village raised the tribe together.
Yeah, and that is how we've actually evolved to survive. When we were doing this individual kind of hunter-gatherer thing, we didn't need to rely on the tribe. It wasn't, we started to settle in and then realized, hey, if we're going to stay in one fucking place and, keep our fucking species alive, we're going to have to fucking rely on each other. I don't entirely know when I can't pinpoint a time when capitalism has decided that we must go back to this solitary existence to where it's just your nuclear family and
a lot of that actually
keep it up and
started
going.
Started with European feudalism. Feudalism is part of feudalism is kind of capitalism's younger step kid.
Yeah.
Or rather more actually it's more like its great grandparent, to be honest, cuz
it's its predecessor. Yes. Feudalism is absolutely capitalist's
capitalism is de facto what feudalism was de jure. That's functionally what it is.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to go, please tell me a law that says that Jeff Bezos has so much influence over everything, and you're like, well, I'm not going to be able to find you a law because this isn't feudalism. Him being the richest landowner in the world does not make him the king. But de facto, it does.
It makes him the king of the money.
Of the money.
The money.
Kai,
okay, that's Raz. Okay, no, that's Raz. I was like, okay.
Yeah, okay. So we're getting pretty close to when we usually start wrapping up because
I'm probably going through a magnesium deficiency right now, so my eye is constantly doing this. It has all fucking day long, and I'm like, yeah, that means stop staring at the screens.
So, Cirrus, do you have anything exciting coming up?
A lot of live streams because sleep is my enemy.
Guys, tune into Cirrus's live streams. One, he's had some really fucking awesome shit to say about the current state of things. Two, he plays the prettiest games, and it's such a mellow, just chill vibe.
When
if
I
it's a
play
game
games.
stream. Yes, if it's a game stream. If it's a game stream, it's
Unless you're playing Among Us, in which case the vibe is very much...
Unless you're playing Among Us, and then it's like, let's see who can gaslight the best. Then it just becomes a fucking mental game. Either way, it's worth tuning into.
I didn't get imposter once during that, and I wanted to go behind at least Vosh, but maybe Vosh or Xander Hall, and just right in the back. But nope, I never got that chance.
Aww.
3 hours of Among Us, and I didn't get imposter.
Aww.
Oh well.
The pain of hosting.
No, I wasn't hosting.
No, he wasn't hosting.
Hosting actually does not have that much to do with it.
I know that there tends to be a circular kind of preference, though, about who gets imposter and
yeah,
who doesn't.
it gets fixated on a particular username, and nobody knows why.
Xander Hall got it. It got
Was it
fixated
Xander Hall?
on Xander Hall. So he got it a bunch, which sucks when you're me and you go into electrical and Xander Hall's right behind you. But you know.
So since this is the last stream where we're going to be deliberately talking about allyship, do you have any allyship messages you want to give the audience about, working together to form a coalition and why you might want to do it? Because we just spent a whole bunch of time talking about mutual aid. Not once did religion come into any of it, apart from, hey, let's avoid, most churches because they will make it religious.
Because they will make it difficult.
So I will say this. If you are an atheist, you know how hard it is to find other atheists local to you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a pagan, there's likely more infrastructure for you, but you also know how hard it is to find more pagans near you.
I have to drive to Portland to find anybody who practices my religion.
Do you honestly, truly, honestly believe that either one of you can do this alone against a hegemony of Christian theocratic morons? Do you? Because if you do, I'm going to be mean for a second. You live in such a thorough delusion, and I wish I could participate. But I can't. So instead, all
Put
I
it
can
like
do...
this. It took 74 million of us to push back. 74 million.
That included Christians.
That included, right. That included
most
Christians.
of them were Christians.
So this also goes out to Christians. If you are a Christian and you are not what we would consider a fundamentalist or an extremist, and you have a problem with those fundamentalist and extremist tendencies, do you think that there are enough of you? Because a better case can be made for you, but it's still a delusion to think that you ever could be in a position where you do not need more against people who would readily accept things like fascism, so long as it was coded in their favorites, red, white, and blue spangled honors. So, I would like to do it. I would like to advise this on a positive note. Of that, it's good. Look, we've got atheists, we've got pagans, we've got all kinds of people that come onto a channel like this, and we talk and we make friends, and it's all wonderful and great. I would like to have that positive one. But I feel like that's not the vibe to go for, as we're realizing that a Biden presidency is a Band-Aid. Find. Jesus.
I was just waiting.
Yes. Find people who are willing to fight for the same things you're willing to fight for, and then compromise with them as you need to. Because trust me, breaking off into all of your own individual units, going off and finding no allies at all, you will not accomplish anything. And especially if you have kids or have family that has kids, please do us all a favor. Do everything in your power to make sure that the world is a better place for them when you die.
And something else to think about. It's not Christianity that we're battling against. It's extreme patriotism.
Chauvinism.
It's fundamentalism.
Fundamentalist patriotism. Fucking Christ! I swear I'm not having a stroke. I swear, guys, I'm okay. I'm just tired.
John strong. Call the bondulance.
Well,
No.
and although the show is going to be moving toward a more adversarial tone as time goes on, we're going to be talking policy. We're going to be talking politics. We're going to be talking. We've got the coalition. Let's do something with it. But I want to end off like this as we're starting to work on the new branding and as we're making a transition. that message is still implicit in our show, no matter where we transition here, even if we're not talking directly about it. We're about to move into the people ask us, why do you want to work together? We're about to move into all of the different reasons why.
Yeah.
And I want
because we want to survive.
Because we need each other. And because honestly, like whether Jen is still working like on atheist issues or not, whether, you know, my content transitions a little more towards, you know, talking a little more politically as well, whether we are ending up challenging a lot of the problems in the community rather than just talking about building bridges, those bridges needed to be built for a reason. And we still need each other no matter what. Because in the end, it's us against the fundamentalists, whether we like it or not. I hate us versus them narratives, but it's the truth. That's where we're at. And they will absolutely take everything away from us if we don't fight, and fighting together, we're that much stronger.
Yeah, don't fall for this fucking we gotta hold hands bullshit. They're not holding hands with us. They're shaking our hand to push us back under the noose. Make no mistake.
The Lincoln Project will be your enemy in 4 years.
Make no mistake. They are literally hugging you to distract you from the noose they're slipping around your neck before they kick that fucking stool out from you. They see your existence. If you are not exactly like them, they see your existence as evil. And they have been taught their entire lives to eradicate evil.
And they
remember
think
that.
Remember also that we saw the last 4 years a tiny preview of the worst that could come if they continue to seize power. Now is the time for us to work. And we're going to be talking in future episodes about more direct political things that we can do and policies to push for as things come out. But right now, since we're here, we've built the coalition. Let's do it. Jen, we have a very strong majority in the poll. Do you want to announce it, or do you want to give people a little more time?
You're looking at it.
51 to 4.
You're looking at it. So
we've got a 51 to 4 vote currently with 55 votes in.
Give it a day. Give it a day.
So, for those of you who don't know...
Let's not Trump this and stop the count. Let's not do that.
There's a link in the description below.
Sir, if you're muted.
I will declare a winner tomorrow night. On the server. If you guys are not a part of it already, again, there's a link in the description. As long as you've not been banned before, you should be able to come in. Everybody gets the Xanos role. Make sure you read the rules and get your reaction rolls. The mod team will get to know you a little bit before you'll get let into the main server. It's a lot bigger than that little tiny section, let me tell you.
Yes.
It's huge, and people get lost on it, especially our mod team. So
I still don't know half the shit that goes on in there.
Yeah, it is a gigantic server,
I'm just like,
and
okay.
like our mod team and admin team are incredible for being able to maintain it, because it is absolutely nuts. So for those of you who are in the Discord, the poll is up in the announcements channel. Both of the emotes are up there. There's currently a very strong majority, so if those of you are in favor of the one that is not currently winning, make sure you get your vote to count.
Yeesh. Do that.
Jen, what have you got going on?
Thursday, I am releasing a video on why the Democratic Party has failed. I will be delving into voter number differences, the current statements from, what are they calling them? Moderates. How the progressives are costing them their seats. We're going to dig into everything with that. Friday, I promised my channel that when I got monetized, I would do a sex and relationship solo live stream. And you guys this one will be getting personal. I will be sharing things about my past and my personal life. And we'll be talking about sex and dating and relationships. And it'll be audience led. So bring your questions. I'm here to answer them.
There are 69 viewers currently in our stream.
Nice.
It's an omen.
On my channel, I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to have a video out this week. I am going to be getting the Patreon bonus video from last month out to my patrons fairly soon, and I'm hoping to have it out by Saturday for the rest of you. It is on Historical Research 101 skills. It was requested by Ninja Mode, who has been a $10 patron pretty much since I started my Patreon, so it was exciting when she got drawn. And as far as next Monday goes, we're actually going to be having a guest from Surus's channel on to talk about the historical parallels with fallen empires and what the U.S. is currently doing. So we're going to be talking a bit about ancient Rome. We're going to school
y'all motherfuckers on some shit. is what
we're going to be
do
talking a
next
lot about the Reich. We're going to be talking a little bit about ancient Rome. We're going to be discussing kind of a full swath of history. Jen's going to get to geek out, and this is a personal friend of Surus who, the moment that stream got done, I poked him and was like, "Hey, would this person like to come on and hang out on one of my streams?"
Yeah. It is the right thing to do.
The right thing to do.
So
wow, I didn't realize I was that good.
So I'm hoping to have a video out this week, but I'm not sure if I'm going to yet. There have been a lot of things going on. There's some, especially family stuff going on currently that I'm trying to deal with. So thank you guys again so much. This might be the last time that you hear this particular slogan. Jen and I have been having conversations about whether
the next one will be Viva la Revolution.
The next one, we've been having conversations about a new slogan for the show, but for now, remember, we're stronger together.